so proudly we hail, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the path.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Freedom Network. I'm Gary, your host, right here to talk about freedom, politics, all that kind of good stuff that we talk about each and every week here, right on NCTV 191 is our channel at this point. We are going to have a cable show. Don't worry about it. Excuse me. I'm verklempt here today. Yeah, we're going to have a cable show. We're gathering, Team Freedom is gathering some information because I know we got some stuff to talk about with Charter. We've been doing a lot of local stuff. We've been talking about schools and new schools and debt exclusions and all that kind of stuff. Certainly, I'll take any of your emails. I'll forward them along to where they need to be. I've already been doing that to the best that I can. Today, we're going to talk a little local with a nice state flair. Constitutionforfreedom@gmail.com is the email. Feel free to use it at any time during the program. Groups and pages do exist on Facebook, all over the place. Send me an email. I'll send you a link. That seems to be the best way to get people on. It's difficult. Those links are pretty long when you actually try to type them out or say them. Let's just talk a few issues. We will have Tracy Lovvorn. She will be here in studio. Actually, she's already in studio, so she can't even escape. She's already here. We'll get her right on in here in just a few moments. She's running against McGovern for a seat in the 2nd Congressional District in Massachusetts. It's going to be interesting. To say the very least, it's going to be interesting. We'll ask her all about all the issues and all that stuff coming right on up. We'll find out what she's all about, who she is, why she's doing this, and what she thinks, because that's really important. When it comes down to it, as I always say, it's got to be issue by issue. It can't be party by party. It can't be any of that kind of stuff. It's got to be issue by issue. So we'll get her on here in a few minutes. We got the newswire up. We got the email going. We got all the information. We're connected to the world. So we'll talk a little bit of freedom and keep you updated as to what's going on. It does look like President Trump is going to sign an order that will keep the kids with the parents in this whole entire illegal alien situation. I think that that's a good thing, to be honest with you. I don't believe that he was a catalyst for that happening. At the same time, he's right. He's right. There's stuff flying in. There's news. It's happening right now. I mean, Wednesday's usually a slow news day. That's why I like to do the show on Wednesday. But sometimes I like what Trump does. Sometimes I don't like what Trump does. I just call what I see issue by issue. So here he's going to get a win, just like he got a win in Korea. That's just what it is. When he says things like, take the guns first, due process second, he doesn't get a win. Sorry. And I know that drives people nuts because in today's day and age, and this is what I really wanted to touch on a little bit, folks, is the reality that way too many Americans out there are worshiping politicians. I mean, it's actually a worship status. Let me give you a story I summarized today. I was talking to somebody on Facebook, which I do from time to time. I do it way too much. And, I've not been shy about my disgust for, let's say, example, what Scott Lively has said about gay people. He will be on the Freedom Network. As far as I know, he hasn't canceled yet, and I'm very eager to have him on. And he will be on, as far as I know, on July 11th. All opinions are always welcome here. We don't always have to agree, or I don't have to agree. I think a lot of you guys are going to vote for Lively. I'll certainly speak my piece on some of his issues, but I think that, to be honest with you, we will agree on many of the political baseline issues. But I am not a fan of a lot of the things that I've learned that he has done and said. So when I was saying that I'm not sure that I could, vote for somebody like that, I mean it. It's just not really the way I go. I'm a freedom guy, and I'm not really into the whole situation. We can find out what Tracy thinks about it maybe when we get her on. But then, it's funny because I let him know, and he was great, right? He was my buddy. He was like, oh, yeah, Lively, is no good, right, blah, blah, blah. And then I let him know I'm not really a big fan of Baker either, okay? I'm a constitutionalist, so you're not going to find me in favor of too many people that hold any elected office. It's just kind of the way it goes. Doesn't mean I don't vote. Sometimes I blank things when there's just nobody to vote for. I am definitely known to go grab a ballot and blank what I don't want. But and I just want to make sure I get all my facts right here. But I did let him know that I wasn't a big fan of Baker. I really don't like party politics at all, and all that worshiping that I see out there. Well, holy moly, that was that. I mean, then I was greeted with venom, clear venom. You know, folks, let's get real. Can we just get real about this stuff? You're Americans. That's what you are. You're Americans. You're not Democrats. You're not Republicans. You're Americans. That's what you are. And you should go issue by issue. You shouldn't be worshiping any politicians or any parties. You should be looking at the intent of America. Where are we today? And is this person going to help us, or is this person not going to help us to get back to kind of where we should be? And I say should be because how does the constitutionalist get called the extremist when you're in a country that's governed by a constitution like we have, right? How does that even work? I do usually vote Republican or third party, or fourth party or fifth party. It really just depends. Now, I'm not, like, for example, people have said to me, so does that mean you like LaRouche? No, I think he's a moron, to be quite honest with you, and a criminal. But not my, not my cup of tea. He gets into that division stuff. I'm just not into scapegoating other people for people's problems and stuff like that. Just not for me. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that everybody backs up the happy wagon, as I like to say. Is there a drink, by the way? There's supposed to be a back up the happy wagon drink here at the Valley Pub. I thought that Pam, I thought you were going to take care of that for me. I think that you're listening down the Cape. Where are you, down the Cape nowadays? Is that where you are in the summer? The summer on the Cape. That's good. That's good. I wish I could do that. I'm happy that you are, and I'm happy that you're out there way down there. I'll give a quick shout out to my friend Robert, who I believe is out there, way out there. Robert's way out there. And I don't mean just politically. No, I'm just kidding, Robert. But yeah, he lives a little bit on the far away side from us. But I do appreciate you folks tuning in via the online capabilities that we have. Isn't it just fantastic to be able to spread the reach so far? When I first started in radio, probably in, I don't know, 1991, maybe, something like that. I mean, that was it. Where you could get to is where you got to. There was no go online. That didn't exist. There was no email me in. You know, that wasn't happening. It was just you did what you did. If you're on a small station, you reach this many people. If you were on a huge station, you reach this many people. And it's just amazing how the whole scope of media has changed. It has changed. It has exploded. And you can get any information that you want. You got to be careful because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Anyway, I want to have plenty of time to talk to Tracy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, just a quick break. We won't be gone for too long. When we come back, sitting beside me right here on the Freedom Network will be Tracy Lovvorn, who's going to hopefully make a real honest run at this second district that we live in, and other people that I know live in that are watching the program, not just from this town, but from many towns. It's a good-sized district, and encompasses a lot of people. So what we'll do is we'll just take that short break just to get her in here, you know. I'll bring her in. I want your questions. I want your comments. I want your input, as I always do. You can certainly use the phone. It's number right there on the screen in big, huge print. And also, certainly, please feel free to email. It's constitutionforfreedom@gmail.com. We're going to be back literally in minutes with Tracy.
Once upon a time that to be a Republican in this area of the country felt a bit like being Gary Cooper in High Noon, outnumbered in a big way. But I remember the story of a fellow who was running for office as a Republican, and he was in a rural area and that wasn't known to be Republican, and he stopped by a farm to do some campaigning. And when the farmer heard he was a Republican, his jaw dropped, and he said, "Wait right here till I go get Ma. She's never seen a Republican before." So he got her, and the candidate looked around for a podium from which to give his speech, and the only thing he could find was a pile of that stuff that Bess Truman took 35 years trying to get Harry to call fertilizer. So he got up on the mound, and when they came back, he gave his speech. And at the end of it, the farmer said, "That's the first time I ever heard a Republican speech." And the candidate said, "That's the first time I've ever given a Republican speech from a Democratic platform."
Interesting, very interesting. Good old comedy from Ron. Tracy, welcome to the Freedom Network.
Thank you.
It's a
Thanks for
pleasure to
having
have
me.
you here. No, it's
This is
absolutely a
great.
pleasure to have you here. You know, we're trying to get as many people, as many candidates on to the program as we possibly can. Any candidate is certainly welcome to come on the program. And when we see people at the local level come to engage, talk, and that kind of stuff, it always goes a long way. And as I always say, if I get any residual emails or anything like that, we'll certainly send them off to you so that you
They'll
can.
be addressed.
They usually do come. Sometimes people are like, oh, you know, or they'll watch the show later and then have questions and stuff like that. So more than welcome. So first of all, let's start out with this. You're running for a seat in Congress in the 2nd Congressional District against McGovern. What made you decide to do that?
You know, if you look at the history of Jim McGovern, he has been in office for 22 years. He was in District 3, and then in 2010, they redistricted Massachusetts. And now in District 2, he has never had anyone run against him in our district. And
something?
politics has been a little different. I don't know if you've noticed this the last few years. There's been some changes in just the political sphere.
Yes.
And one of the things I heard you mention earlier, it's incredible to me, almost unbelievable, that I'm basically running on a platform to uphold the Constitution and instill and enforce the rule of law. That just seems so crazy to me,
Well-
that's a political platform. Right now, I'm running against a candidate who really is wanting the country to fail. You know, they want a lower economy, higher unemployment. They want us to have a war with Korea. You know, Jim McGovern has said out loud, and I think all he does is think about Donald J. Trump from the moment he wakes up in the morning to the time he goes to bed at night.
Oh.
And I want to know, what about us? You know,
Yeah.
are you thinking about District 2? Or are you just there to resist and fight?
You know, there's a lot of people that wake up and go to bed thinking about Donald Trump. There's a lot of people that do that. I don't get it. That's what I was talking about in the beginning of the program. Honestly and truly, I don't understand. To me, I just don't understand it. But it is true that there are people, and he's been there. The reason he's been there for so long is because people see he's a Democrat. He's in Massachusetts, and he'll just keep on getting elected until somebody can actually stand up and maybe articulate some reasons for people not to. Now, we know in this state that we'll elect Republicans. Unfortunately, we only seem to elect very few in either house of Congress, both locally and nationally. And we'll elect a governor that's a Republican. There's, I think, more independents now in Massachusetts than Republicans or Democrats, aren't there?
That's one thing that this is our moment. We have the numbers more than ever. If you look at District 2, the makeup after the 2016 election, 175,000 people came out and voted in support of change. About 135,000 of those voted for Trump. The rest voted for Stein or somebody else, or just left it blank because they were so frustrated with the choices. So 175,000 voters voted for change in 2016. If, on the high end, we had 300,000 voters come out for this midterm, we would need 153,000 votes to win. And again, going back to one of the things you said earlier as far as leaving that vote blank, in 2016, 88,000 people left the vote blank instead of voting for Jim McGovern. Central
Wow.
Massachusetts
That's a lot of blanks.
It's a lot of blanks. And if you look at the results
Yeah.
for District 2, we are a very moderate conservative district.
Yep.
We are just left of center. We're just right of center. Jim McGovern is the 5th most liberal progressive member of a 435-member House.
Wow.
He does not match the ideals of Central Massachusetts. He just doesn't. He aligns with Nancy Pelosi 95% of the time with voting.
How can anybody? I don't understand. I don't even know how she gets in. And then and again and again and again. I don't get that.
You know, Congress, they say, has, I've read 2 different numbers. I've read either a 15 or 11% approval rating. Yet they have a re-election rate of over 95%. And that's up to us. I am all for term limits. I support term limits. I think you should not be there more than 6 years as a representative. However, there are elections every 2 years.
Right.
It's up to us to make these decisions. And I hear a lot of discourse. A lot of people are upset with what our government's not doing. But what are we doing about it? And that's 100% up to we the voters.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, Tracy, the reality is that what we seem to get just a barrage of same old, same old, same old. And it's almost like in this state, once they get a seat, they have it forever. It's their forever thing. That's why so many people are looking at term limits, because it's a way to get them out. In this state, it's locally, forget about it. I mean, it's very difficult in this state to run a reasonable campaign as anything except either a Democrat or a chosen. Republican.
That's, you mentioned that. In 2010, when they redistricted this state,
Yes.
District 2 was very, very planned out to include the city of Worcester, and then, of course, Amherst and Northampton, and it was bookended by very strong Democrat cities. We were, at the time, the 13th most gerrymandered state in the Union.
Wow.
In 2010, they said that, I was reading an article, and it said that if any Democrat that was doing a halfway decent job got at least 60% of the vote just in Worcester City alone, they would be easily reelected. What's interesting, though, and why we need to take this opportunity is that was 8 years ago. Since then, the population in the surrounding small towns have increased significantly.
Sure.
And as like what you said just a few minutes ago, the number of registered Democrats in the city has gone down. A lot of people are just getting frustrated with party politics. They're registering as undeclared or independents, and they're starting to look more, all right, let's look at these issues.
Right.
If that's the case, now's the time to do this.
Absolutely, absolutely it is. So, what's your background?
I'm a physical therapist. I've been a practicing physical therapist just over 20 years. The majority of that time I've been in healthcare management, clinical and operational management. I've worked for companies across the United States at corporate levels. A big thing that I've really focused on is compliance with Medicare rules and regulations.
Yep.
In 2009, I was working for a company and identified Medicare fraud and patient abuse.
Wow.
And I brought it to the attention of the company, being excited and wanting to fix it, being a little naive.
That didn't go over too well,
That
did
did
it?
not go over too well. Within about 6 months of me starting that job, they started a retaliation campaign, and ultimately I was fired. But you know what? I knew that was wrong, and I will be the first one to stand up for what's right. And I went to lawyer after lawyer looking for help. Initially, I figured it was an employment retaliation case. I found a wonderful employment attorney, but he kind of walked me through the steps and said, well, wait a minute, Medicare fraud, that's a federal offense. So he took it a step further, put me in touch with some other attorneys. It came down to the fact that after about 5 years, I worked with the U.S. Attorney General's office, the Assistant U.S. Attorney General's office in Philadelphia, as well as the Office of Inspector General in D.C. And after 5 years, the company settled the case. And what's wonderful about this story is it was a company based out of Canada. They had about 250 skilled nursing facilities throughout the United States. After they lost that case, they moved. They went out of our country. They quit taking advantage of our elderly. They quit taking advantage of our program. Since my case has gone through, that has set the precedent for multiple other cases. And since that time, at least 5, 6, 7 other cases has settled. And because of my case, at least a couple hundreds of millions of dollars have been returned to the Medicare Trust Fund, and skilled nursing regulations have been adapted and changed so that can be policed better. So companies are no longer it's not as easily taken advantage of as far as taking advantage of our elderly population.
Sure, sure. So, I mean, that's really interesting to have, you know, not just stopped it, ended it, but removed it. I mean, it's gone, right? I
It's
mean,
gone.
that's a success. You know,
It-
that's a big success.
It's gone and it's moving forward and it continues. Even to this day, you can Google skilled nursing rehab fraud and you'll find case after case that have been settled. And a lot of that is because what myself and my family, because, you know, they lived through this as well.
Sure.
What we stood up to and did.
Sure.
And for years this was going on. For years people would do it anyway, turn a blind eye, or just leave. But you can't just do that. When you find something wrong, you fix a right. And I have a history of that.
That's really interesting and fantastically wonderful results. I mean, there's so much abuse on every level in the medical industry, whether it's, you know, physical, mental, charging people for things that they shouldn't be charged
And
for.
$20 Tylenol.
Yeah,
at the
things like that.
hospital.
You know, it just gets a little bit nuts if you ask me. So you want to go? Who would you see as allies were you to win the election? Who are the people that you would look at and say, you know, and it doesn't matter what party they're in, but do you see any people out there that would help to bring some of your agenda to fruition?
So other candidates that are running right
either
now?
other candidates maybe, or yeah, other candidates, absolutely, and maybe in general, even existing people that might be there that we don't know about.
Right. You know what I find fascinating, and I love watching the Senate race right now against Elizabeth Warren and,
Yeah.
the three candidates that we have. And when I talk about this, I think we have three candidates that are absolutely phenomenal, and I truly wish we could just mush them together,
Mush 'em together.
into one perfect candidate.
Yeah.
And I think that would be amazing. But right now, we have one perfect candidate that's spread out into three different parts. And I think that's more of a challenge.
Yeah.
Definitely. And you know, on social media and whatnot, I watch their supporters and we're all tearing each other apart, you know, because the primary is so late for us.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's so hard, especially trying to run against an incumbent.
Sure.
Is all summer long we have to campaign against each other and then we only have 2 months
Right.
to move forward.
Right.
And so I am watching that race very closely. I've met all three candidates, and honestly, this moment in time, I don't know what I'm going to do when
You
I
don't know
get
what
into
you're
that
gonna do?
voter's booth.
You don't know what you're gonna do.
I do have some theories on politically what helps me in the election.
Okay.
So I might be able to share that. Again,
Sure.
this isn't a personal vote because I honestly have not decided that. I promise I haven't. But I have to say, knowing the voters that I've met in District 2, it appears that they align more strongly and more fervently with Jeff Deal
Yeah.
and his message. There's a lot of excitement for him. You know, he won the convention pretty handedly.
Sure.
So he does have a lot of momentum, especially in District 2.
Yep.
So I think, again, politically, I really see that if he was on the ballot in November, that would motivate more voters that would be similarly aligned with my views to come out to the polls.
Right. Right. As opposed to yeah, I've had very mixed thoughts about him. I personally, and my biggest mixed thought about him has nothing to do with his issues. It's really got to do with the fact that he's a Trump guy, and he is, and I know there was some back and forth on that, I'm not going to get into that, but he was definitely a Trump guy, a campaigner for Trump. I have seen and been privy to a couple of ads already. Should he win, there's one ad that he's not even in it. It's just Trump versus Warren. And I think that in this state, did Trump not
Trump-
lose this state by
Yeah.
about 1 million votes?
Yeah, that's
I
an
am
issue.
really nervous about that. I would love for a guy like a Alan Waters or something like that to really be able to arrive on the stage, if you will. Only because I think that the freshness would be fantastic. And I like Jeff. He's not a bad guy politically. I don't know him personally. Politically, he's not a bad guy. I think he tries to do what the right thing is. I just get nervous. I get nervous that if he's the guy, we get stuck with Warren because all the Democrats are going to go vote for Warren. All the Democrats are coming out.
It comes down to numbers, and again, it really depends on who comes out to vote. You know, if you come out, you know, Jeff's done the numbers just like I have, and I've
Sure.
listened to him a few times, and he's right. More people in the state voted for Donald Trump than voted for Charlie Baker in 2014 when Charlie Baker won that first election. So the numbers are there depending on who decides to show up to vote. I think, again, in District 2, I'm a little, you know, we're more pink. We're a more moderate conservative district. District 2 is what pushed Charlie Baker over the top in 2014. So I think he has a better chance with the
Right.
voters here in District 2. But you're right, statewide, I'm not sure. Again,
It's gonna be tough.
but it's a very interesting race. And
It is interesting.
I'm honestly glad right now I'm not one of those candidates because they are just so great. You know, they each bring something to the table that, you know, one ups the other, but the other one, it's just a
No, they
really
do. I mean, to
fun
me,
race to watch.
The best outcome of that is that she loses, and you know, any of the above, I guess would be better. I don't know any catastrophic things about much, but I do like the fact that, well, I think, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think that Jeff is less of a party loyalist than some of those other people that are running. And that always is attractive to me. I just get this terrible feeling that it becomes a race of Trump versus Warren. And Trump, let's just face it, I mean, you know, he's not going to beat Warren in Massachusetts. It's just not going to happen, you know? So that's what gets me nervous. But if his team is good enough to get him out from under that.
Well, the message right now, you know, I guess yeah, I was asked, you know, if I'm a Trump, what do they call you, a Trump Republican or a Trumpist? And I do support Donald Trump. I support this country and I support America. And right now, there's so much good happening.
Oh, the
You
guy's
know,
on fire. I mean,
the
he's
decreasing the
definitely on fire.
regulations, just me, I'm a business owner. I own a small clinic, physical therapy clinic. You know, going back to my story, after becoming a whistleblower,
Yep.
it's very hard to get employment again, especially in a corporate level
Sure.
office.
Fair enough.
So I do own, I opened a small physical therapy clinic just right down the street in Grafton about a year and a half ago. And those regulation decreases and those tax cuts affected me so much, so greatly. I was even able to hire a therapist, and now I have a little more time to come out and talk to you.
Campaign and-
I mean, it's just incredible what that has already done.
He's
You know?
definitely had some good stuff. I'm mixed on him. I just take it issue by issue. It just depends on what the issue is.
Just there's so many
Will depend
issues
on how I
when you
feel
got
about it.
the unemployment right now. You know, right now there's more job openings than we have people to fill them. And one of the things that I say with Worcester, you know, Worcester is going through a wonderful, they call it a renaissance. You know, you go down to Shrewsbury Street and
Yeah.
that it's booming
It's
down
beautiful.
there.
Yeah, it's
Beautiful
beautiful.
restaurants, great hotels. The thing is, though, is there's gentrification happening as well. There's still a lot of homeless in Worcester. There's still a lot of poverty. U.S. News came out with a report that said Worcester was on the top 20 list of most severe poverty-stricken cities in the United States. That puts it right up there with Baltimore and Detroit.
Sure.
And that's right in our backyard. That's Jim McGovern's hometown. So I would ask, what's he doing about it? And if he's against the unemployment rate going down, he's against decreasing regulations, he's against business development, how is that going to help Worcester continue to grow and succeed?
No, it's and in all honesty, it's not. I mean, I'll look at it. I try to look at things again as realistically as I can. We all decried the numbers of the unemployment numbers when they were starting to turn a little bit with Obama in office, and we talked about the people have left the workforce, they don't count this, they don't do that, you know, and the formula isn't right. But now that the numbers are looking even better, no one's talking about the formula anymore, which, you know, that's the stuff that drives me nuts in
But if
politics.
it's the
is
same
all those-
formula,
Absolutely.
it's
So,
apples to
right, it is
apples.
apples to apples, but it still doesn't include the people that are out of the workforce and all that stuff.
Right.
Is the economy better with Trump in office right now? Absolutely, it is undeniable. I think that what happens is that people get so locked in. They get locked into candidates, and that's what happens. And then it becomes, you know, there's nothing that they can do that's wrong, or they become locked out. There's nothing that they can do that's right.
Right.
So you'll find people that, you're right, they literally want him to fail. How do you
Which-
want
which
the
makes-
president to fail?
Which makes our country
Right.
need to fail in order for them
For
to
them
be
to what?
successful.
Feel good? I don't get it. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
want Obama to fail. I thought he was, he could have been the worst president we've ever had. Certainly he's going to rank out in probably the top 4 or 5, but I didn't want him to fail.
Right.
I didn't
No,
want him
you
to fail
can't
because
fail.
if he fails, we fail.
Right.
And, you know, tax cuts and stuff like that, I applaud Trump for what he did. You know, companies were really hooked up. They definitely were hooked up. I mean, personally, I don't know what I saw, maybe 30, 40 bucks or something like that in my paycheck. I'm not jumping up and down over 30, 40 bucks. But at the same time, any tax reduction is phenomenal.
Right.
So I'm all in on that.
What,
you know?
what was so interesting too about that tax reduction, I remember Jim McGovern and everybody was, but now we're going to have $1 trillion deficit because of the decreased taxes. In April, there was more revenue generated from taxes than ever recorded before,
Right.
historically, in the month of April. And it's because the job numbers went up so high.
Right.
The volume took care of the decrease, and not only took care of it equally, it surpassed it.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff that you just keep going with that momentum. And again, if you just want the country to be successful,
Yeah.
because the stronger we are, the more the stronger we are, you know, not just militarily, but healthy and economically,
Sure.
then it puts us in a position where we can help others.
Sure.
But if we're in a position where we can't help others because we can't even help ourselves, that's no good for anybody.
No, you gotta want the guy to win. My God, I want him to win and win big. I mean, you look at North Korea and you say to yourself, this is amazing. I mean, it's nothing short of amazing. You can't deny it. If you do, you just become one of those locked-in people. You're not.
Even if nothing more happened but the release of the 3 prisoners,
Yeah, that would have been more than any of the other presidents.
and it didn't cost us a
were-
pallet of money under the nightfall darkness.
Right.
You
It's
know,
true. It's
that's a
very
big
true.
deal. That is
To
a
get nothing.
very big deal.
To really, yeah, to get, you know, nothing as far as progress on the safety, if you will, of the world. I mean, that's for darn sure, you know. I don't understand the never Trump and always Trump. Those, again,
Two
I don't get that.
extremes.
I just don't get it. I mean, I honestly and truly don't mentally understand how people can get so locked in to somebody that they just can't get out of it. And it blows my mind. Tracy, it just blows my mind. Let's jump on the phone real quick and see who we've got here. I think if I just do this properly, we should be all set. Good evening, and you're on the Freedom Network. Do I got you?
Yes, good evening, Gary, and
Hey.
good evening, Tracy.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good, good. The question I have, a few questions I have for Tracy is that as a local issue that we are in the town of Northbridge, we're looking on potentially building a new school and a fire station, and I know Congressman McGovern's been open to giving federal funding to other towns in his district, and would you also have an open door policy to the leadership of the town in Northbridge if they came in and see if it's possible to seek some possible federal funding for a new school and a new fire station if it was passed by the voters in town?
What's your name again?
Barry, Tracy.
You know what, Barry, I would take it a step further in not just having an open door, but actually actively coming and asking. You know, that's one thing that you learn in management right away is if you're a good manager, when you go out to your facility and you're talking to employees, one of the first things you need to do is ask your employees, do you have what you need to be able to do your job?
Mm-hmm.
I would work for you, and that's how I've always been as a supervisor as well. So I would try, there's about 60 towns in cities in this district,
And they
but
all
I
need
would do
money.
my best to come out and ask, what do you need to do your job? And we're going to get a big laundry list, but it's like, okay, so what really do you need to do your job? And let's work together to make this happen. One of the things that just came out, it was on the Telegram Gazette, I want to say late last week or early this week. The Worcester Airport from the FAA got $1 million to resurface the airport. And the very first sentence was Jim McGovern saying, hey, this is great, and I have a wonderful relationship with the FAA. Now, I'm not sure exactly what Jim did to facilitate that, but if you really look into that, I went online and I went to FAA and I looked at the grants that were given out. It's right on their website. You click on it. Now, Worcester is the second largest city in New England. All right? Boston is the first. Boston got $6 million, a $6 million grant. Provincetown got a $3 million grant. Burlington got a $2 million grant. Manchester, New Hampshire got a $2 million grant. So I would just ask Mr. McGovern, I would hate to see it if he had a bad relationship with the FAA. Because how does Worcester, yes, $1 million, I'm not going to refuse $1 million, but how did we only get $1 million?
Well, that's a good question.
It's a very good question, and the Telegram Gazette is not going to ask him that question.
No.
And that question is the one that needs to be asked. So as wonderful as Mr. McGovern is at getting out to all our towns, getting out to our cities, and advocating for us, I'm not convinced that can't be done even better.
Right.
What else you got, Pat?
Another thing that really is like a weight on a lot of families, not just in Massachusetts but throughout the whole country, is the cost of health insurance. You hear there's some people on the left that their only answer is the single-payer system. And I was just wondering, what are your thoughts, and maybe subsidies to private companies or whatnot, or something to try to help ease the burden of health insurance costs on the average American in this country. And if you look at, like I said, it sounds like you're somewhat familiar with the health insurance industry, and I mean their costs have been going up 30-40% over the last 10 years, while a lot of the regular American workers, their salaries have been stagnant. So I was just wondering, just some quick thoughts on what do you feel, or how do you think you can handle this, something to take this burden off the regular average American workers?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you're right. I've been in healthcare management and operations for at least 15 years now. Currently, as a small business owner, working with insurance contracts and seeing how the reimbursement works on my end, it's kind of weird. You're right. We're paying all this money. You would be surprised if I let you know. I turn in a bill as a physical therapist. I turn in a bill to you, but what I actually get paid from the insurance companies is just a small percentage of that total bill. So my question is have you driven through Hartford, Connecticut anytime soon? Do you see those buildings down there? the most buildings, they're the biggest, most beautiful buildings in Hartford, Connecticut. And at the very top, they're all owned by huge insurance companies.
Right.
The money that these insurance companies are making is just astronomical.
Right.
And I do believe that, one of the things, again, going back to what Trump was talking about, but it actually did work here with the auto industry, with the auto insurance. When you're locked in and you only have a choice of one or two providers, that cost is going to go higher and higher and higher.
Sure.
You pour more money into a situation, it's amazing how things cost more and more and more. So opening up the lines, getting more providers, increasing the competition, it definitely helps. Doesn't
Right.
hurt to
So-
do
so-
that.
so
I don't know if that's the
quite a burden on the average family.
Barry, if you got one more quick one, go ahead.
Okay, I understand you're for the term limits, and I agree with you on term limits. And you always hear that it takes a constitutional amendment to do the term limits. I mean, has that ever been conferenced out? I mean, can't Congress just pass a law stating that there's term limits, or does it take a constitutional amendment? And I'll go on that, and thank you, Gary, and thank you, Tracy, for running, and I appreciate the excellent show, and I also appreciate the excellent technicians there at NCTV, and thank you.
Thanks, Bud. Appreciate it. Good to hear from you.
So with term limits, yeah, it's a constitutional amendment, or you can have the states can get together and have it, and both of those are being worked on right
Right, yeah,
now.
because you can do it at the state level, right? Can you?
Well, you can, but it takes the states all have to come together. So the
Right.
governors would all have to come together, and the Texas is spearheading that.
All right, so we're not getting
But
term
you're
limits.
you're asking career politicians to cut off their own
Right.
heads.
Right. And that's where I think that I've always said that what we need to do is through one whole cycle, just vote
them
every
out.
single one of them out.
This is
right
that
down the
cycle. This is that cycle.
line. This is that. This is that cycle.
This is that cycle.
A couple emails while you were popped in while you were talking with Barry. One person says they've already heard enough and they are excited that there's somebody against McGovern that seems intelligent. Somebody else wants your email address. We'll get you that information in just a few minutes. And generally speaking, some positive things coming in, which is nice. Which is
I
really
have gotten a lot of positive feedback. I think people are hungry for change. I think people are looking for a moderate voice.
Yeah.
I am a Republican. Similar to what you said, though, I'm an issues Republican. I'm definitely a constitutionalist. We have a playbook. All we have to do is play by the rules.
Absolutely.
It's not, it's not. You don't have to be a neurosurgeon to be able to figure out
No,
how
it's
to
a
do
very
this.
small book. I keep one in my car. You can fit the Constitution and probably about half the size of this tablet. The whole thing fits right there. You know, it's and I urge people constantly to just read it. Just read it. It's not. It can't take you more than a half hour to read the entire Constitution, no matter how slow you go. I mean, I wish they would read the Federalist Papers and that kind of stuff with it, so then we don't have to get into this. Let's interpret what it means. So let's interpret what it means to you. What do you think about the Second Amendment?
What do I think about it?
What do you think about it? I mean, is it the law of the land? Do people have the right to bear arms? Where are you on that one?
Yes, it's the law of the land. I think that there's a lot more going on that we need to address. You know, I grew up on a farm. I grew up in a time where a lot of the kids and my family even, we had a gun rack in the back of the truck, and the boys would, typically boys, sometimes girls too, you would just go shooting after school. You know, it was just normal.
Right.
In 7th grade, we had gun safety courses. They weren't required, but everybody did them because we had deer season and elk season, and it wasn't it was just what you did. It wasn't
Right.
even anything special.
Do you think that passing more gun laws is going to reduce gun violence?
Not in the least. I think that's already been proven. You know, with it's already illegal to kill somebody.
True.
What more? You know, what more do you need? I think it makes people feel better. I think it makes you feel like you're actively doing something. And sometimes a little of that is maybe okay because it's fear. You have so much fear. You want to feel like you're doing something.
Right.
You know, a big thing I have on my platform is childhood health and safety. And I try to speak to this as much as possible because I really think that, you know, if you have the red side and the blue side of issues, our kids are our future, and that's the white in between us that keeps us together.
Sure.
So if we can't agree on the health and safety of our kids, we're already doomed. So let's focus on that. And right now we have kids, they're going into schools and shooting each other.
Right.
You know what? Where is that coming from? We have kids that are shooting themselves up with heroin. We have kids that they're taking more anti-anxiety medications and antidepressive medications than ever before.
Yep.
We have kids with higher obesity rates and kids that have more diabetes diagnosis than ever before. We're living in a generation of kids that currently have a lower life expectancy than their parents.
Wow, really? Wow.
We're the parents, we're the adults. What are we doing to our kids? And I believe that wraps into mental health, and I believe that's what's going on with gun safety.
So I guess it's safe to say that you won't be voting for any gun control laws. Would that be safe to say?
At the same token, I would not want to. But if I have a constituency, right? If I'm out, I'm speaking to the voters, and voters are calling me, I need to represent District 2 voters. Right now, with the voters that I've spoken to, just in my little bit,
Sure.
they don't want that. They want me to uphold the Constitution. But if it got to the point where more and more, everybody, that's what we want. There's about 700,000 of us in this district,
Yeah.
and that's what is knocking on my door. I have to represent what the voters want. I'm not here to do what Tracy wants. It's not Tracy's ideal. And again, I'm not the rock star going off to D.C. I'm working for you. But I'm also working for, 699,999 others.
Right.
So I need to take that into it, knowing that, yes, I'm starting from 100%. I'm a constitutionalist. Yes, I support the Second Amendment. I understand that gun control, a spoon doesn't cause obesity, or we would ban spoons. None of that makes any sense.
Right.
But at the same token, I'm being hired to do a job for a lot of people,
Right.
and I'm going to be listening to a lot of people.
Okay. Well, if you listen to people and you pass gun legislation, how does that line up then? Would you then say, well, I guess I'm going to have to not be a constitutionalist today?
No, but what it does mean is that we have a lot of discussions, because the Constitution has been amended,
Sure.
or we wouldn't have women's rights to vote.
Right.
So the Constitution, I don't want it to be, but at the same token, things do evolve and change. And where do you draw that line? I don't want to draw it anywhere. It is already drawn. But at the same token, there are some things that we already have laws that are instated. Do we repeal some of those laws? Background checks, things like that. I have my license to carry. I have a license to carry here. I also have my license to carry through the state of Utah, which gives me an extra 20 some odd states. I felt when I was going through that process, I felt like I was a criminal. They do a background check. They take your mug shot. They're taking your fingerprints. I don't know of one person, well, one, but typically your mass shooters, they're not your lawful abiding citizens.
Right.
So to just create more laws just seems foolish. I think we have an opportunity to educate people. And so if there was a big push for that, it's like, okay, but as a representative, I would be able to have more of an audience to be able to share my views and be able to say, well, look, let's sit down, let's talk about this. Have you taken a gun safety course? Do you understand the Constitution? And really try to reach out, educate people to what's
Sure.
going on and get them to understand that, no, passing this law isn't going to.
Well, no, it's not going
change.
to, but to a degree, even if it does, I don't think that there'd be a whole lot of impact with any gun laws. The fact of the matter is that we have nothing but increased gun laws over the
Right.
past 25 years.
And it's
we've
just
seen nothing
made-
but more problems.
Get worse and worse and worse.
Right. So there's absolutely, in my opinion, no correlation between the two. And the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting or target practice or
No.
anything like that. It's not what it's there for.
Right.
I would just, I would be more comfortable knowing that I had people that were in Washington that, if you want to pass this legislation, then my term comes up in such and such a day, you can elect someone that will, but I would not, in my opinion, go against the Constitution in that way. And you talked about amending it a little bit. At the very last resort, I guess a law could be made, but don't amend the Constitution. There's no
right.
real
No,
need
I
to it
agree.
on that basis. I, you know,
I can't think of a law like what Maura Healey did in this state. You know, I'm so looking forward to that, to actually getting to the Supreme Court.
right.
Because right now it's been upheld. You can't just come out and do what she did.
No.
Now, had that been put to the vote of the Massachusetts voters, hey, guys, we're looking to ban a bump stock. Hey, guys, we're looking to ban an AR. Then at least there's some feedback. There's a vote that's taken place. There's conversation.
No,
there's
right,
dialogue.
and I understand your position. If anyone's going to make that decision, it's not going to be you. It's going to be the people, right? And I think that that's good. I think that that's good. Wow. Didn't she just mention AR? So should AR-15s be banned, is what that person wants to know.
You know, and then again, there's where there's so much opportunity for education. You know, the other side has used fear to really push their agenda. And the way you combat fear is you understand more
Sure.
about it. I mean, the fact that an AR is an assault rifle. You know, if people would just take
and
the
people
time.
think that's actually what it means.
I know,
They
and
believe
the
that.
other side has really pushed that along.
Sure.
You know, if you had a time to sit down with somebody and just be like, you know what, this is just a fancy looking scary.
Right. So today a
gun."
bill, something comes across, and you're reading it, and you have to go and you vote, and you're going to go vote, and I think what the emailer is saying is, I'll put words in your mouth. You tell me if I'm wrong. Is if that comes to the point, and today with the knowledge you have right now today of your district, of your country, of your government, of all that, and they say if you vote yes, then the AR-15 is banned. Would you vote yes? Would you vote no?
I would definitely vote no.
Okay. I think
because
that answers your question.
Because
right?
I have not had the opportunity yet
Right.
to get the feel or have the opportunity to talk to people that are afraid of the AR. And you know what? I would be afraid too if I didn't know what it
Sure.
was or what was happening, and
Sure.
if I believed what I was being told.
Do you think that McGovern's going to debate you?
I would sure hope so. I would love to ask him about the $1 million. You
Yeah.
know, I would love to ask him, you know, I don't know if everybody got their postcard in the mail for the coffee with the congressman. Did you see that?
I don't think I saw it.
Oh my goodness, it's going out to each town, and he's having coffee with the congressman, which is wonderful. It's how you want to reach out, you know, to your voters and find out what their needs are. It's just the timing of it is
Yeah,
so
I mean, to me
coincidental.
it's to me that's so phony and fake. When was the last time you had coffee with the constituents in the off election year?
And for it to be paid for by our tax dollars.
Oh God, stop!
So,
Stop!
so-
You're gonna make me
no,
disgusted.
and it says right on the bottom, paid for, made, printed, and postage paid by the tax dollars. And for me to do one mailer to this district
Yeah.
would cost about $45,000.
Really?
They say to run a good campaign, you would have to do 6 strategically placed mailers throughout your campaign. So to run a decent campaign, I would need at least $300,000 just for junk mail that you would look at and throw away, just to get my
Isn't that
name
awful?
out in front of you guys.
Isn't that
So-
awful? It's funny, and I put money in politics on my list. It's
So-
funny.
And he actually has that in his war chest, but he's still able to use the tax dollars. And I get it. I know it's not a campaign. He's doing this to outreach. But I also, come on.
It's a campaign, man. Come on.
Ethically, that's a question.
See, I don't like when people take the citizens for fools.
Right.
And that to me sounds like what a coffee campaign is in an election year. Come on, Jim.
Right.
What do you
So,
think? Come on.
So I would need $300,000 just for the mailers. Nobody knows my name, so I need to get out there with radio ads. I need to get out there with TV commercials.
How's all that going? Are you fundraising? Are you,
I'm begging. But what happens is,
sad that you need to.
even though there's a lot of energy for our campaign and everybody
Mm-hmm.
says they want change, bottom line, people are like, yeah, but you're a Republican. in Massachusetts. I'm not going to waste my $20. You know, I'm looking to try to stir up some energy like Bernie Sanders did. You know, if you get enough people giving you $20,
Yeah, you
$50,
can make all kinds of money.
you have enough to get a mailer out. You have enough to get lawn signs out. But right now, we're all talking a big talk. We want change. Right. We know it's time.
Well,
we can do this.
You can do something about it now, right?
But nobody's. Oh, no, I don't want to say nobody. We've had some very good contributions,
sure.
and I'm so thankful for those.
But in mass, it's not.
But
flooding
the
in.
fact is the end of June coming up, we have to file again our campaign dollars. When McGovern looks at that, he's not even going to give us the time of day, because again, he knows that it's going to take $1.5 to $2 million
right.
for this campaign, and when he looks and sees that we're at 15 to 20,000,
right.
he is just going to.
Well, he's not going to want to put you on the map. What's your email, by the way?
You can go to our website. It's www.tracyforcongress.com, TRACYFOR, and then email is tracy@tracyforcongress.com.
Gotcha. So that's, I guess, if you wanted to ask any further questions or anything like that. I know we don't have a ton of time left. Maybe we get another email or two in. I see that one came in, but I can't make sense of it. I don't know if you had your fingers on the wrong spot or what when you were typing, but send it back to me again. I can certainly forward it off to Tracy. What's the deal? What's your final thought? Was Baker get reelected?
Baker's going to get reelected, I believe. I heard you mentioning Scott Lively, and that was always the question. What did you think of Scott Lively? I was there at the convention, and I listened to his speech.
I heard it was a great speech.
Everything he said at the convention was right. It was a great speech, and it was a 100% correct speech. His history came out, like you said, too, and I do think that makes him, in any state, but especially, here, I don't see him as a potentially viable candidate across the whole state. Yeah. I think Charlie Baker, though, if I can give him some advice,
you can.
I really think he did a disservice, because after the convention, he came out and the reporters were right there. Charlie, what do you think about Scott Lively? Right then and there, he had the opportunity to say, you know what? 30% of my base voted against me today. So I need to listen to that.
Right.
I want to hear what are their concerns. I want to give them a voice, and I want to open my door to listen to what these concerns are, and I want to reach out to them and figure this out. But instead, he basically put them in a basket of deplorables, discounted them completely, and these are the people that got him elected in 2014.
Yeah, I think that what's interesting, really interesting about that whole situation is you've got a guy, right, like Baker, that's popular. They say the most popular governor out there, right? So he gets challenged from within the party. Okay, so a guy comes up with 27%, right? Okay, well, if you win your election and Jim gets 27% and you get the rest, isn't that a landslide? That's what I don't understand, where all this, oh my God, you got 20. I get it, but he got 27% among voters that are the conservative people in the state. And let's face it, he's not the most conservative guy. So, of course, there's going to be people that are going to probably gravitate one way or the other. I know we only got a minute left here, but to me, it's just wild. I know it's wild, and like I said in the beginning, Tracy, I'm not a huge fan of elected officials. You're going to change that. Hopefully you're going to beat McGovern, right? And we'll get another more conservative person in there. I can give me 15 seconds on your final thoughts. Anything that we didn't cover, you were dying to get out there. If you guys need her email out there, let me know. I'll get it to you.
And there's just so many issues. We didn't touch on, immigration.
Right.
That's happening.
It was a top on my list.
We didn't talk about the opioid epidemic here in
Yeah, just touched on
Massachusetts.
it.
I think with my history in healthcare, I think with my history as a small business owner, I think with my history as a mom, I have 2 boys and they're both in college, so I know what skyrocketing college costs are and how to deal with,
Sure.
what we're dealing with that. I know with my history in healthcare management and operational management, as well as working with people. I think I bring something to
Tracy,
the
I'm
table
flat
that's
out of
not
time.
there.
I'm
Oh,
flat
ah.
out of time. Thanks for being on the Freedom
All right.
Network. We're
Go
gonna
to
have
my
you
website.
back.
Help me out.
We'll get to all that other stuff. All right?
All
We'll
right.
get to it. Thanks for watching, everybody.